Long ago, in a land where dawn broke slowly and every sunrise lingered on the rooftops like golden dust, there lived a young girl of uncommon gentleness. Her name was Ella, though over time and through sadness, the world would come to call her Cinderella. She had once lived a life warmed by laughter. Her mother, a woman of soft voice and bright eyes, kept a small garden filled with roses that opened only after sunset. Moon roses, she called them, because she liked the idea that beauty could bloom in darkness. Her father, a merchant of steady manner and broad heart, traveled often yet always, brought home small gifts chosen with care, a ribbon dyed with mountain flowers, a book whose pages smelled of sea salt winds, a music toy carved by distant hands. Their home was neither grand nor poor. It rested between two tall oaks, as if held in their wooden embrace, with windows that looked toward the valley where the river shone like silver thread. The villagers knew Ella as the girl who fed birds from her palms and remembered the names of everyone she met. But fate, like a long, winding forest path, turns without warning. One winter, her mother fell ill. The illness arrived quietly, like a shadow stretching at dusk, and no healer's herbs nor whispered charms could keep it from deepening. When spring finally came, her mother did not rise to greet it. The house seemed to exhale a long, sad breath, and the moon roses bloomed that year brighter than ever, as if offering their glow in farewell. Her father, though strong in will, felt the silence in their home press upon him. After many months, he believed that companionship might bring harmony back to Ella's life, and to his own. He remarried a woman of refined manners and sharp eyes, a widow who had two daughters close to Ella's age. The elder was named Drusilla, the younger Hortensia. Both were as proud as their mother, each carrying her own brand of vanity, like a polished jewel displayed for the world to admire. When Ella's father traveled for business, her stepmother's smiles faded like mist in sunlight. Drusilla made demands with a sigh. Hortensia spoke with the constant flutter of irritation, and their mother observed Ella with a calculating coolness. Yet Ella tried always to offer kindness. She tended the fire, cleaned the hearth, prepared meals, swept hallways, mended garments, tasks she had never been made to do before. At first, she took quiet pride in maintaining harmony, but over time, the work grew heavier. Her stepmother discovered quickly that Ella would not refuse a task, no matter how unjust, and so the responsibilities multiplied like weeds in an untended garden. When her father returned home, the household transformed into a stage of politeness. Her stepmother praised Ella's helpfulness, her stepsisters pretended affection, and Ella, wishing not to burden her father, kept quiet. He noticed, perhaps, that her hands had grown rough from work, or that her dresses no longer fit as they once had. But travel-weary as he often was, he hoped it was simply a phase. Then one day, on a far journey, he fell ill and never recovered. The news arrived with the grayness of a winter morning, leaving Ella's world colder than frost. Her stepmother donned black garments and spoke solemn words, yet Ella saw no sorrow in her eyes. After his burial, the transformation of Ella's life was complete. She was moved from her bedroom to a small attic space under the roof. Her belongings were given to her stepsisters. The dresses her father had chosen for her were cut apart and resewn to fit Drusilla and Hortensia. Her books were stored away for safekeeping, though she never saw them again. And soon after, the nickname began. Cinders clung to Ella's skirts from tending the hearth. Soot smudged her cheeks after cleaning the chimneys. One evening, Hortensia laughed. "Look at her, our little Cinderella." The name stuck, repeating itself gigglingly through the house. And though it stung at first, Ella found herself accepting it, for the ashes were sometimes the only warmth she felt during long nights. Still, she held her mother's teaching close. When the world is unkind, remember that kindness is a light, and light remembers its way home. And so she waited and endured and breathed. Years drifted by slowly, like the path of clouds. Cinderella grew graceful in spite of hardship, her manner gentle, her voice calm. The village admired her kindness, though few dared oppose her stepmother, who wielded social influence like a knife wrapped in silk. One day, as spring ripened and the kingdom prepared for the season of festivals, an announcement arrived from the palace. Trumpeters rode through the towns, their notes bright as morning bells. Scrolls were posted in marketplaces and pinned to doors. The prince was to host a grand ball. Not a simple celebration, but an event meant to choose from among the maidens of the land someone worthy of standing at the future king's side. All eligible young women were invited, an opportunity that lit the village aflame with excitement. Drusilla and Hortensia shrieked with delight. Their mother immediately began planning their wardrobe, as if preparing for battle. Fabrics were delivered, jewels polished, ribbons chosen with obsessive scrutiny. The entire house trembled with their frenzy. Cinderella helped them prepare, not out of obligation, but because she had long learned that resisting only brought harsher consequences. She sewed hems, pressed garments, polished shoes until they gleamed like river stones. She braided Hortensia's hair into elaborate coils and woven Drusilla's into shining waves. And though her arms ached, she took quiet satisfaction in doing her tasks well. At last, the day arrived. As her stepsisters preened before the mirror, Cinderella dared, in a voice soft as drifting dust, to speak. "Might I go to the ball as well? I would stay out of sight. I only want to see the palace, just once." Her stepmother stared at her, astonished, then let out a cold, low laugh. "You, in rags, covered in soot. My dear, the prince is choosing a bride, not a servant. What place could you have among them?" Her stepsisters burst into snickers. Drusilla added sharply, "You would embarrass us." Hortensia flicked a ribbon at her. "You don't even own a dress suitable for a stable." "Enough," their mother said. "She cannot go, and that is the end of it." And so Cinderella watched from the doorway as the carriage rolled away, carrying the three figures whose laughter floated back to her like broken glass. When the last sound faded down the road, the house settled into silence. Cinderella walked to the garden where her mother's moon roses still grew, though wild and untrimmed. She touched a petal, cool and velvety. "I never asked for anything beyond a glimpse," she whispered, "just to see what beauty looks like from inside a place that shines." A tear fell, and where it struck the ground, something shimmered. A warm breeze stirred the roses, though the night was still. The air thickened with a faint shimmer, like light caught within dewdrops. Slowly, gently, a figure appeared, soft as moonlight falling on water. She was tall and graceful, her gown woven from threads of starlight, her wings transparent as dragonfly glass. Her face radiated a kindness so deep it seemed older than time. "Do not weep, child," she said, in a voice as warm as a distant summer memory. "For sorrow calls to me as surely as hope." Cinderella stepped back, awestruck. "Who are you?" "I am your fairy godmother," the figure answered with a small smile. "Your mother asked me, long ago, to watch over you should her light ever fade." Hope flickered in Cinderella's chest, like a candle kindling. "But I cannot go," she whispered. "I have nothing, no gown, no carriage, not even shoes." "That," said the fairy, "is easily mended." She lifted her wand, and magic stirred the air like the first ripple in a still pond. The pumpkin in the corner of the garden glowed, swelled, and transformed into a golden carriage, its surface gleaming like a sunrise. 4 mice from the kitchen darted out, but before they could flee, they stretched into elegant white horses, manes flowing like mist. A lizard, sleeping by the doorway, blinked in confusion as it lengthened into a footman, proper and dignified, and a rat in the grain bin rose into a coachman with proud shoulders and keen eyes. Cinderella gasped softly, but the greatest wonder was yet to come. Her fairy godmother tapped the tattered dress Cinderella wore. It shimmered, lifted, and dissolved into a cloud of silver light. When it parted, Cinderella stood in a gown of breathtaking beauty. Layers of pale blue and silver, shaped like ripples in moonlit water. Her hair coiled into glossy curls, crowned by a delicate shimmer. Upon her feet appeared glass slippers, clear as pure ice, yet warm as crystal, touched by dawn. The fairy godmother examined her with a fond smile. "You look as your mother hoped you would one day, radiant with goodness." Tears welled in Cinderella's eyes, but happy ones. "Go, child. Enjoy the night. Only remember, when the last stroke of midnight sounds, the magic will fade." Cinderella nodded. The coachman opened the door. The horses pawed the ground lightly, and with one deep breath, Cinderella stepped into the carriage. The journey to the palace felt like drifting through a dream. Lanterns hung along the roads, flickered in boughs of warm gold. The palace itself rose like carved ivory against the darkening sky, its towers glowing with hundreds of candles. Music flowed from the windows, gentle violins, warm cellos, laughter carried on the breeze. Inside, the ballroom stretched like a world of its own. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen constellations. The marble floor reflected the dancers as though they glided on still water. Gowns rustled like petals, jewels flashed like tiny stars. Every eye turned when Cinderella stepped into the hall. Whispers drifted like falling feathers. Drusilla and Hortensia craned their necks, squinting, utterly unaware that the vision before them was the very girl they mocked daily. The prince, who had until that moment stood politely among guests, yet felt no spark of connection, saw her, and time, for him, slowed. He approached her, not with formality, but quiet wonder. "May I have this dance?" Cinderella lowered her eyes, then raised them again with a softness that made even the musicians pause. "Yes," she whispered. They danced, slowly at first, Then, with growing ease, around them, the ballroom glowed brighter, as if reflecting their shared peace. Cinderella found herself forgetting the ashes of her life, and the prince saw in her a sincerity he had long given up hoping for. They spoke of small things, books, gardens, quiet mornings, the comfort of kindness, and in every word exchanged, a thread of understanding wove between them. But the clock, relentless, moved toward midnight. Cinderella heard the first stroke and felt the spell's drowsy tug. "I must go," she said urgently. "Please, wait," the prince pleaded, reaching for her hand. But she slipped away, leaving behind only a faint swirl of silver. Down the staircase she fled, and in her haste, one slipper fell, catching the moonlight as it landed. She dared not return for it. The carriage thundered away as the last chime struck. Magic dissolved like morning frost. The horses became mice, the driver a rat, the footman a lizard. Cinderella found herself alone in the road, wearing her old dress once more, a single slipper, glass, warm, impossibly real, held against her chest. Meanwhile, the prince found the remaining slipper and declared he would marry no one but the woman whose foot it fit. Every maiden in the kingdom was called to try it, and so began a long procession of hopefuls. When the search reached Cinderella's home, her step-family prepared feverishly. Drusilla nearly fainted attempting to squeeze her foot into the fragile glass, and Hortensia pushed so hard that she turned purple with effort. Then, Cinderella appeared at the doorway. "May I try?" she asked softly. The stepmother stepped in front of her. "There is no need. She is but a servant. She didn't even attend but the herald, by royal command, insisted." The moment Cinderella sat, the slipper glided onto her foot as though welcoming a friend. The herald gasped. Drusilla shrieked. Hortensia froze mid-breath. And from her pocket, Cinderella drew the matching slipper, letting it catch the morning sun. The prince arrived shortly thereafter in a flurry of breathless hope. When he saw Cinderella standing there, no gown, no magic, only herself, his eyes shone with recognition deeper than memory. "It was you," he said. "And I am still myself," she replied. He offered his hand. She took it, not out of obligation, but quiet joy. The wedding that followed filled the kingdom with gentle celebration. Cinderella invited even her stepfamily, though in time they learned humility rather than entitlement. As for Cinderella, she carried her mother's lessons into her new life, that kindness is a light, and light, once given, guides all who walk beside it. And on many nights, long after the palace fell silent, she would sit by the balcony overlooking the moon roses growing in her new gardens, quiet, fragrant, blooming in darkness, and remember that hope, like magic, appears when it is needed most. And so ends this long candle-lit tale, soft as the hush of evening, warm as a dream, drifting into sleep.